Good evening. Thank you to all of our candidates for joining us for night 2 of our forums in part 1 of the Fargo City Commission Candidate Forums, hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. My name is Cady Rutter. I am currently serving on the League's Board of Directors, and I will be your moderator for this forum. This forum is currently being streamed live and will be recorded for playback on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, TV Fargo 56. This recording will also be posted to our website and our Facebook page. Due to the large number of City Commission candidates, we've split this group, randomly selected, into 2 sections. Mr. Tweeden did call us this evening and let us know of a conflict that he will not be able to join our first round. Please be sure to join us for part 2 coming up at 7:15. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. If you would like to learn more about us, please feel free to visit our website or our Facebook page. Thank you so much to the City of Fargo for providing the space and the technical assistance for this evening's event, and to all of our volunteers who have greeted, collected questions, and agreed to timekeep. We're so grateful for all of your help. I'll take a moment to highlight our 2022 voter guide at vote411.org. Here you can find your polling location and get personalized ballot information to compare the candidates who are seeking your vote. The guide will be published on the evening of May 5th. We'd like to thank Folkways for sponsoring our voter guide for 2022. So before we begin, I'd like to review the rules and procedures of this evening's forum. Questions have been submitted in advance by the public online and in person here tonight. Questions may have been screened for clarity or combined with other similar questions. All candidates will be given an opportunity to address each of the questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statements. Each will then be allowed 1 minute to respond to each of our questions. And at the conclusion of the Q&A period, candidates will be given another minute for their closing remarks. A timer on the wall will indicate how much time is remaining and will indicate when your time is done. When you hear the beep, or beeps plural, that means that your time has expired. Please complete your sentence or thought so that we can move on to the next candidate or question. We will appreciate the audience's consideration in maintaining a quiet room so that all the candidates have the opportunity to answer their questions fully and in a timely manner. So we will begin our opening statements with Mr. Dave Pepcorn and proceed down the line. We will then rotate the first speaker for each new question. You may begin.
Thanks. I'm Dave Pepcorn. I'm currently a Fargo City Commissioner. I'm also the Deputy Mayor. I'm born and raised in Fargo. I've attended Washington Elementary, Ben Franklin Junior High, and I graduated from Fargo North in 1979. I played football at North Dakota State and graduated in '84. I was drafted by the Cleveland Browns. When I was done playing football, I came back and went to work for my dad's, our family business. I've been self-employed and working there for my whole life. I love Fargo. I love my job. It's been an honor. I have a lot of experience. I have a proven track record, and I like to think I'm part of a team, and we have a very successful record here in Fargo. For the past 12 years when I've been serving, we've done a lot of great accomplishments, not just because of me, but I'm just saying I was part of the team, and I enjoy it, and I hope to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Victoria Johnson.
Thank you, League of Women Voters, and thank you everyone who's watching from home. My name is Victoria Johnson. I am a family advocate and a founder of a nonprofit organization called Families United for Self-Empowerment. I'm running for Fargo City Commission because I believe special assessment is creating burden on family. My platform will focus on special assessment, relationship building based on foundation of safety and trust, and term limits. My core values are integrity, honesty, and hard work. Those are core values that was taught by my grandma that is instilled in me. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Earl Carlson.
Well, thank you, League of Women Voters, for having us tonight. It's a good opportunity for the public to hear what the candidates have to say. I have been in Fargo for the last 50 years. I went to NDSU. I graduated from there, and I taught for 6 years at Agassiz Junior High. And I sold real estate in the summer. And in 1980, I started a construction business with my wife, Sharon, and we built over 400 different types of units around the city of Fargo in those years. We were a small business, employed people, and I would like to think that we had something important to do with helping in the growth of the city of Fargo. I'm dedicated to this community, and I am willing to take the time and the effort to make it an even better city. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ahmed Sheel?
First of all, thank you to the Leagues of Women Voters in the audience that are joining us today and those that are watching online. My name is Ahmed Sheel, and running for City Commission. So I was asked why I'm running at one time, which really drove me to reasons why every single day that I connect with residents and just hearing their voices and understanding what challenges that the community has. And it's really connected to what I'm passionate about. By working at a nonprofit and as a business owner, I really focus on my platform that really focuses on workforce development, childcare accessibility, and affordable housing. As a homeowner, I understand that special assessment it's really a burden for families, especially for new homeowners. That's something that we can look into and study further into. But really passion that drives me is because I am a family man. I really want to focus on childcare and workforce.
Thank you. Ms. Denise Kolpak?
Thank you, League, for hosting this event, and to everyone watching and who's here in the audience today. You know, my entire career has prepared me for this job. As a business executive and a communicator, I worked with several people to solve problems, and most importantly, coming from a military and a law enforcement family, service to community is part of my DNA. As your city commissioner, I will do my homework, I'll be prepared, and I'll make decisions on behalf of all of Fargo residents, no matter what your party affiliation. I'm also will bring professionalism and decorum to the City Commission. I believe Fargo City employees deserve that, as we all do.
Thank you. Mr. Tom Magin?
Am I supposed to push a button back here?
No, it's on. It's good.
Thank you. Hello.
Thank you.
When I decided to run, I wasn't prepared. But at the last minute, I decided to run because I was nudged by the facts. In 1 week, I have a treasurer, a message, a plan, and a weekly report. My campaign is for neighborhoods beyond the coming election. Win or not, like 14 fellow candidates, this will be a race to get to know each other, the voters, find common goals, and change the status quo mentality in City Hall. The next 9 weeks will be telling. After 1 week, the public focus is encouraging. I want to point out what's more important than winning: our neighborhoods. If elected, I'll do my best to build a fair process to grow Fargo. Neighborhood inclusion. Neighborhood inclusion. Neighborhood inclusion. There, and I'm going to get over the beat. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Matur Alier?
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event, and thank you to the City of Fargo for giving us a platform to share our vision for the city that we love. My name is Matur Alier. I currently work as the Director of Equity and Inclusion for Moorhead Public School. I also serve as the Chairman of Fargo Human Rights Commission. I am running because working families need a voice in their government. My main priority is to end spatial assessment. Homeowners are basically paying a second mortgage while large developers receive a massive pay tax or tax break. Secondly, I'll fight for living wages for Fargo workers. The cost of living has increased far beyond the rate of pay for our workers. Lastly, our city leadership need to focus on childcare and transportation opportunities for our working families. During this time of massive workforce shortage, we need to break down barriers for people who are willing to go to work. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll begin with you, Victoria, for the first question. How do you propose that the City of Fargo attract and retain workers?
Thank you for that question. as a family advocate, I work with a lot of families, diverse group. We work with both new Americans, white, Native, and diverse group of different people. In order for us to attract workers, we must also know that people want to live in a community that they see in it. They want to live in a community that they can see themselves in those who represents them. So something Fargo needs to look at. As you see here, a lot of the candidates who are running, diverse. And so this is a message to the entire city of Fargo that people want to come in a city where they see themselves being represented. And that is how we can attract more workers here. Make it a welcome community that everybody feels like they have a voice. We have the same passion as everybody is in this room. We want the best for Fargo, and we want to attract people, and they need to see themselves in those who leads them.
Thank you. Al?
There's a lot of things that make a city grow, and I think Fargo has done a lot of them well, but it's really important to keep in mind that when a business comes to Fargo, they want to know that they have a predictable and a very stable regulatory environment. So when they open their business, they know it's stable. They want to know that their tax environment is very stable. And I think that's a crucial thing in a lot of businesses. When you look at Amazon and FedEx and UPS and those that have settled here, I'm sure that was very important on their list. Workforce will always be a challenge, but that's going to take a group effort from the city, the county, and the state to handle that. But we have so many good things going for us that attract businesses, our medical facilities, our colleges, our quality schools, all those things and the social amenities that we can offer families that want to come to a metropolitan area and live are here. We need to enhance what we can, and we need to make sure that we keep our infrastructure online and that we keep that infrastructure up to date. And if we do that, Fargo's going to grow.
Thank you. Ahmed?
I think it comes down to accessibility. I think we need city leaders that are really focused on always looking for innovative solutions on how the city can grow, really focusing on the residents and the needs and identifying barriers that the community has, and making workforce available to those that are ready to work by removing barriers that the community has. For example, one of the projects that I worked on through my nonprofit work that I do was transportation. So by identifying key infrastructure in the community, I think it's really something that can help attract more people to come and live in the city and help the resident that currently live in the city really strive in having space for the sidewalks that they walk, in the parks that they walk, really working with the colleges that retaining college grads to stay in the community. So it comes down to workforce availability, accessibility.
Thank you. Denise?
Sure. Sorry. Working collaboratively, both firsthand, both from my experience at United Way and also serving on the Greater Fargo-Moorhead Economic Development Boards, I know that results are possible. Some specific examples currently underway that I support in public-private efforts include Fueling the Future by the Chamber and the EDC. And they have some very tangible programs they're working on right now to address the workforce issue in our community, including Ignite, which is matching employers to people, the Career Innovation Center, Campus FM to keep the people who graduate here in Fargo, and the Emerging Digital Academy, all underway currently. They're also expecting a master workforce strategy by June of this year, which will give us informed facts to make decisions about a longer-term strategy.
Thank you. Tom?
Could you repeat the question?
Sure. How do you propose that the city of Fargo attract and retain workers?
I think by coordinating education, vocational education, and professional recruitment tools, like incentives through subsidies for tuition or apprenticeship programs. Apprenticeship programs have kind of fallen by the wayside in the last 20 or 30 years. I know there used to be actually someone in the federal building that was coordinating federal apprenticeships in the federal apprenticeship program, but it seems like we've lost that resource. And I think it's because the city of Fargo isn't standing up and hollering that we want that kind of service back from the federal government. We need more apprenticeship programs, number one. and we need to come up with some kind of incentive to retain professionals. Thank you.
Thank you. Matur?
Thank you. I think workforce is one of my main priority. I served as a volunteer to Hrichena group, finding jobs for people that needed to work. And the two barriers that I have seen in our community are childcare. Childcare is a big burden to working families because you need to pay that one first month before you can go to work to pay off the next. So if we can solve that, we'll solve a problem. Other issue is the transportation. Transportation is a big barrier. Now we have buses that don't run 24/7, and we have people that work at night or willing to work at night or rotate shifts. So I think city need to have a workforce department to be able to tackle that and partner with the Chamber of Commerce. So to that, I think we will solve the workforce problem. I had volunteered my time to do that within our community, and we're able to put more people to work, even to the people that don't speak the language. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
I currently serve on the EDC board, and obviously workforce is a priority. That's something that we're all working. That's a nationwide issue, not just in Fargo. The academy that we built collaboratively with West Fargo, that's obviously going to be a great thing. To me, our best potential for workforce is keeping all the kids that are here. And I think we're not doing a good enough job, not just the city, but everybody with internships. Every business, the city of Fargo, we should all have interns. Right now, the city of Fargo, we don't have, every department, we should have multiple interns, because if you have a paid internship, you're going to stay once you're done with college or whatever education. And so that's the other thing. The other thing is Amazon coming here is raising the bar. For decades, we've been known as a low-wage area, and Amazon is helping raise that bar. It's going to be difficult in the short term, I believe, for a lot of small businesses, but in the long term, it's going to help people that are on hourly wages make more money and get better benefits. So that's a good thing. The other thing Amazon came with, we didn't give them any tax incentives. Thank you.
Thank you. The city of Fargo has placed a focus on its core neighborhoods, but what are your plans for South Fargo neighborhoods, especially those past 52nd Street South? Al, we'll start with you for this question.
I'm not so sure, as I look at it, that a lot of emphasis was only placed on downtown. I mean, if you drive out south, you're going to see an awful lot of development out there. And as the city grows, there's always costs that go with it. The question is, if the developers and the people want to live out there, how do we best provide the services for them? You know, there has been, if you drive down here in any of the avenues, Main or Broadway or any of them, you come out here and say, wow, this downtown has changed a lot over the years. And some of it's been changed through tax incentives, some have been changed just by developers doing it. But we need to make sure that we have an overall plan to make sure that these areas, as they expand out, and part of the diversion idea was that we could continue to expand southward and westward with our city. So that needs to be a priority as well, because people still want to live in single-family houses in areas that they want to be living in. We've built our schools out there, we need our infrastructure out there, and we need to keep promoting those areas.
Thank you. Ahmed?
I think with that question, I actually think back to yesterday when I was out there door knocking. I think one of the repeated thing that I heard from specifically, I'm glad that you asked that question because I was in that area, was residents voicing their concerns of really not having accessibility to, what the other side of town has, for example, because it's a newer development areas, not more investment to have more trees. I actually had a conversation yesterday with someone really talking about there's the lack of trees in that area because everyone seems to be forgotten the side of the town. Yes, it looks pretty and all, but how about really understanding and putting more childcare accessibility in that area and having more trees? And that's one of the things that really keep coming back up again because individuals living out there had to drive across town, for childcare accessibility and actually be put on a waiting list.
Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, great question. So, first of all, I think it's important, and that I think the city's doing this with the new planning vision that they have, and along with the engineering department, to have a comprehensive strategy for all of Fargo for affordable housing. But in order to have affordable housing, you need to have a strong balance between commercial, single dwelling, and rental properties, and Fargo has that. Very much driven by the market. So I think once we get the data that's coming from the MetroCog study in 8 months, we're going to have the data that we need to finalize a comprehensive strategy for affordable housing in every part of Fargo, including downtown, including core neighborhoods. I live in the Jefferson District. It's one of the reasons I love Fargo. It's 2 blocks from where my husband grew up, and we support the neighborhood in which we live. Every neighborhood in Fargo deserves to love their neighborhood as much as we love ours.
Thank you. Tom?
If I understand the question, you're making a distinction between the new development areas down south and our core neighborhoods has been described here. And I think just by making that bifurcation between new and old, we kind of, and believe me, I'm one of the old guys around here, and I'm kind of feeling bifurcated once in a while, but neighborhoods, I think, are lacking a voice, I mean, a real counting voice in the city commission. And I think if you really want to answer the question as to what we can do specifically to make sure that we don't abandon either the idea that we have a historic neighborhood core and we have a modern, forward-looking development program. And I think the best way to do that is with a modern council government. Thank you.
Thank you. Mature.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. The city of Fargo has placed a focus on its core neighborhoods, but what are your plans for South Fargo neighborhoods, especially those past 52nd Street South?
Thank you. That's a great question. I live on 67th Avenue. It's way out there in the desert, and I sometimes feel like I don't belong to Fargo.
Bifurcated.
Yes. So to that, I think the city need to put more focus on transportation. So if I live out there and have no access to transportation, I won't be able to get to work. And to that, that's the work that needed to be done. I live by Davies High School, way south, and I love that neighborhood. I and my wife own a home there, and it's a beautiful neighborhood, but accessibility is not there, and 2, it's not affordable.
Thank you. Dave?
Sure. And so really with the diversion construction going on, we're kind of in this is an opportunity now to decide what to do, because right now we're kind of on a hold. Because once the diversion gets done, the cost for building in that area is going to be much less. Because right now you have to build to higher standards because of the flood zone. And so I think the lesson we've learned now is with the diversion is we have a finite boundary. And so we just can't keep growing nonstop. And I predict once the diversion gets done, that whole area of land is going to get filled within a number of years. And so I think we need to be very careful how we proceed with the development to the south. And I will say the downtown, that's what makes Fargo unique. And that's why I'm a firm believer, the people that live way down south, coming to downtown, it's awesome. And we're the regional entertainment area for northwestern Minnesota and almost all of eastern North Dakota. This is where people come. And so we have to keep, and the other thing, we have to keep building and making the downtown more dense. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
Thank you for that question. In my opinion is this, that our city official neglects some of our neighborhood, like Jefferson, Hawthorne neighborhood. If you look at those neighborhoods, even by Lewis and Clark, those neighborhoods are neglected because our government, our elected officials are focused on downtown because you know what? Big developer wants to be there. They want big tax breaks. And guess what? The burden goes on who? Us. So I think we need to stop focusing on downtown and really look at our entire neighborhood and look at where our families are and start focusing on family. Family should always be the center of the decision that are made right here in this building. It should not be a developer. And they need to stop focusing on downtown Fargo because that's where they're driving the big money. And you know what? It's not fair for the taxpayer. We need a home as well. So they need to start focusing on those core neighborhoods. Thank you.
Thank you. Ahmed, we're going to start with you for the next question. What specific steps do you believe should be taken to make affordable home ownership more accessible to the residents of Fargo?
That's a very good question. As a homeowner, I think I would go back to special assessment. I think that's something that a lot of families struggle to, especially with families that are young and looking forward to buying their first homes. And after looking into the market, they get really burned out, seeing almost what looks like a second mortgage up to $25,000 to $40,000 added into that, and really discouraging them from becoming homeowner. I think being a homeowner is really a great asset that helps the economy grow, that helps families grow, that leaves wealth for families. So I would really go back to really focusing on the special assessment, because that is something that's really hurting families in Fargo.
Thank you. Denise.
Again, I think it starts with data and facts and coming together with a comprehensive strategy for all of Fargo to have affordable housing. But I also have some specific ideas. Number one, promote and expand the homestead tax credit program. As I've mentioned, implementing the core neighborhood program with a focus on how we use infill for affordable housing. Continuing with innovation solutions like working with the Cass Clay Community Land Trust program, which is highly innovative. Payment in lieu of taxes programs or similar programs for residential areas and tax incremental financing programs. And again, as I mentioned, city planning, taking a strategic, comprehensive approach to the long-term solutions is important. We also have a number of incentives available that a lot of homeowners don't know about in Fargo. For instance, for remodeling, for disabilities, for veterans, I think we can do a better job of promoting and expanding those programs as well.
Thank you. Tom?
Building Fargo's future for Fargo, it means affordable housing. And I don't, whether it's new housing or old, the cost of materials, if you're going to be remodeling, is just as prohibitive from wherever you go to get it, as much as if you were building new or old or repairing. I think we need a qualified, stable labor supply to build affordable housing. We don't want a bunch of stuff that falls apart because the labor was wrong and the materials were expensive. I think also there's an economic reality that's probably above and beyond anything that anybody on the city commission can do much about, except be aware of it, stay on top of it, and do the best you can to get as much neighborhood input as you can, because affordable housing has to be in a neighborhood.
Thank you. Matur?
Thank you. I pretty much agree with Hamid Shil here on this. Spatial assessment is a burden to homeowners. And if you look at our city now, the home ownership ratio to the size of our city is pretty low. And what do you guys think that is? It's a spatial assessment. And two, we need to pay attention to how tenders are increasing their rent every year. It's not affordable. The rent increase don't make any sense to me at all. And look at how our city board last time with Authentic Housing and Kilburn Group, that they literally don't want affordable housing. Somebody that was going to build more unit with the lower cost, with the childcare in place, were bought down. So I think the city kind of manipulate the whole housing, and they're not living up to their stand. What is affordable? Affordable is something that anybody can afford to live, and even a poor person can afford to live in downtown. And it was clear that poor people can live in downtown per vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave?
Sure, just real quick, I'm going to jump on that authentic housing. The reason I didn't support it, and most of the other commissioners, was they don't have any money. And so to have a development, you got to have money. It was a great idea, but they literally, you can't build buildings with good intentions. And so that's why I didn't support it. As far as I'm concerned, we need to have housing choices throughout the whole city, and you need to have affordable housing. I just wanted to read my property taxes, and I'll just show you. A lot of people think that the taxes all go to the city of Fargo. For my house, my property taxes, $4,000 goes to the school district, $1,300 goes to the city of Fargo, $1,200 to the Cass County. So a lot of people have the perception that this all goes to us. And the other thing, to eliminate special assessments, you hear this talk and it sounds great, and it's obviously, people trying to make a name for themselves. But if you eliminate that, then what do you replace that with? That's what I want to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
Can you ask that question again, please?
Yes. What specific steps do you believe should be taken to make affordable home ownership more accessible to the residents of Fargo?
I think we need to start using incentive for the first home buyers instead of big developer. And I have to disagree with you, Dave Pepcorn here, because when you talk about authentic housing and Kilbourne Group, I think that was a predetermined vote that the city made, in my opinion, because if you guys truly care for the city and the people in the city of Fargo, you would have made something possibly happen. You would have come to the table and talk and make sure that we put the families who are struggling first. But instead, you choose to put the big developer like Kilbourne first and people always second. And that needs to stop. We cannot continue with that. Otherwise, we'll continue to live the way it is, and we're never going to attract people in our city because people cannot live like that. It's hard. And so I will disagree with that. When you talk about authentic housing not having money, I think the city, if they wanted to, they will make that happen and make it happen for families, not for big developer.
Thank you. Al?
Yes, thank you. This is a topic that obviously is near and dear to my heart because I was building houses for almost 40 years in Fargo, and we've been talking about this same issue since I came to the city commission years ago and said, we got to get our hands around the specials. The point is the city has done some things to try and make that burden less. Have they done enough? Maybe not. I mean, you could require every developer that comes into Fargo that he pays for all of the improvements before he can bring that land into the city. And so therefore, what he'll do is he'll add it on the price of the lot. And it's a catch-22. But you also have to understand, what is the role of government here? Is it the city council's responsibility to make sure everybody has a cheap house payment? I don't think, number one, we could afford it, but I also don't think that that's within the authority of the city of Fargo. We need to make sure that our building codes are set that we're not doing undue burdens on people and having conditions that make building much more expensive and not any safer.
Thank you. This question relates to the previous a bit in our discussion that we've had. When property taxes increase, it can make it harder for low-income residents and seniors to remain in their homes. What will influence your decision on whether or not to increase property taxes for Fargo residents? Denise, we'll begin with you.
Sure. Well, I think, first of all, the current state of our property taxes, to Mr. Pepcorn's point, is that 297 mills currently are totally assessed. 53 of that are city commission, designated to the city commission. The rest go to political subdivisions. But we need to look at specials in addition to property taxes, and we need to have an understanding of all of the political subs in addition to the city's budget needs and priorities. And I think there is opportunity for more collaboration among all the budgets working together. But another core issue with property taxes that a lot of people don't understand is that we have to assess all the value of homes at 95% of the current market value rates based on North Dakota statute. And if we want to address the current concern about the actual value of housing today, and a lot of people saw increases in their last property tax, we need to work with the state to address that 95% market value requirement.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you. Every time I hear this, I kind of get a little confused because for the city commission to solve the property tax problem means that we have to convince everybody going upstairs all the way to wherever that they got to change the rules. So then they go down and they give us home rule so we can kind of be more autonomous. But I tell you what, the home rule is a gift and it's confusing. Some folks in City Hall think it's complicated. I think it is too. But if I could, I would take the oil money, which I can't, any more than I can change the property taxes. I can just change the way we spend them. I would take the oil money, invest it, and aimed at property tax release more permanently, and use whatever is available from that oil money and reinvest it in North Dakota to grow businesses and to make our property more valuable. Thank you.
Thank you. Matur?
I think I'm kind of against increasing property tax because the one we already have a burden. I think the people that are living on fixed income like Social Security or low-income families shouldn't be able to have another burden to pay more taxes. I think we should look to the states, to look into legacy funds and what can we do with that. But I'm against increasing taxes. They are a burden. Like to bring me back to property tax, to social, to spatial assessment. I think spatial assessment, like homeowners, those who are on a fixed income or on a Social Security, shouldn't be allowed to pay spatial assessment at all.
Thank you. Dave?
This is awesome. So you were talking about a fund, the oil fund. It's called the Legacy Fund, and our frickin' legislature is sitting there. We have multiple billions of dollars, and you know what they're doing with it? Nothing. They're sitting there. Your point is exactly right. And then the other one, the Prairie Dog Fund. Where can you? Well, we've been promised that for 3 years. Same thing. It'd be great. We have lots of uses, but it never shows up. They go, and so it's very frustrating. Here's the reason you need to vote for me. There's only one person in any of these things that has made a motion to reduce our budget by 2 mils. The last budget cycle, I voted to lower it from 53 to 51. That would have lowered our budget. I failed. What you need to do is elect me and 2 other people just like me, and I will guarantee you we will lower our taxes. There's no reason. That I was there, if you want to go back and check the record, but there's me and there was nobody else. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria.
I agree with you. There's not much in the Prairie Dog bucket, they call it. But here's the thing. When it comes to home value, they assess the home value, and based on that evaluation, that's what your taxes are. Yeah, we need to find a better way of decreasing property tax. That's something the city needs to come up to table and figure out how do we cut costs somewhere to help lift those burden off of families. That we need to look into it. And for Dave Pepcorn, for you to say to be elected, I will disagree with that because you know what? In my opinion, you put the interest of those big corporations way before the families. So because of that, as a family advocate, I will fight for families. I will make sure that our family voice are heard and that they are put first and not big developer. I will not vote for any incentive for big developer if I'm elected.
Thank you. Al?
Could you repeat the question again? It's kind of going around in a circle. I'm trying to figure out where we're headed to here.
You bet. When property taxes increase, it can make it harder for low-income residents and seniors to remain in their homes. What will influence your decision on whether or not to increase property taxes for Fargo residents?
Well, Dave talks about having somebody to support him. For 26 years that I spent in the legislature, I was known as a budget hawk. I dug and watched and was very careful about every taxpayer's dollars that was spent. And what needs to happen is that people need to understand budgets in terms of percentages and in terms of basic numbers instead of having a mill. What does a mill mean? To most people, it doesn't mean much of anything. A budget also needs to be well thought out, and it should be baseline. Start with the same numbers you had last time. And then there's always 2 things in a budget. There's needs and there's wants. And you should address the needs first, and then, if there's any money, address the wants. But the point is we need to get a budget basis that starts at 0, same as last time, because city gets growth, and then build from there. Or go backwards, but don't go forward.
Thank you. Ahmed?
I would have to agree with what Matura said. We have a lot of families in Fargo that live on fixed income. One out of 7 individuals in our community live under the poverty line, federal guideline, poverty line. So I would definitely disagree on raising, especially with rent going up every single year and job wages staying at levels. We need more to invest in workforce development. We need more to invest in childcare accessibility so that families can go and get good paying jobs that produce more income for the city, more revenue for the city, rather than raising their taxes and keeping them under poverty line.
Thank you. Tom, we'll begin with you for the next question. What specific ways would you address the City of Fargo's childcare issues?
Oh, that's a great question. But before I answer it, I want to not forget to thank Victoria for reminding us of her grandmothers. Childcare is, I think it's a neighborhood issue, don't you? Thank you.
Thank you.
That's it. That's all I can say about childcare. It's a neighborhood issue.
Can I have some of his time too?
I'm afraid not, but you can begin when you'd like.
All right, thank you. Childcare is a big burden to workforce. I had spent my 6 years here in Fargo working as a social worker at Cass County Social Services, processing childcare application. I think we need to work with our county, our state, in figuring out the childcare problem. As a father, my wife get to stay home to tend to our children because we can't afford to take our kid to the childcare. And that's the big burden. She should be working, and also I working to make the end meet. Childcare is a big barrier. Like, we need to figure out the way. Like, now, if you have to sign up for childcare, you need to pay a first month deposit. And how will you afford that if you don't even have a job or don't have money stashed up somewhere? We need to talk to the state, the county, and the city need to do more of that. City is trying to do things alone, but is getting nothing done.
Thank you. Dave?
I guess I'm a little confused because we do a lot for childcare. We have an exemption for childcare facilities. That's in our one of our exemptions. The state has, right now, they're currently doing a childcare stabilization for all the childcare facilities. My wife is working at one right now, part-time, and there are openings. And so I guess this whole thing about childcare, what I'm confused is, I think a lot of people want free childcare. And my question is, if you want free childcare, how much is it going to cost and who's going to pay for it? Because I think that's the issue. I think there's lots of childcare available. I believe there's openings, but I think there's a lot of people, and a lot of them are sitting up here, that want us to have free. They also want to have free college. They want to have free everything. And it's like, who's paying for this? Because it ain't free. I noticed with the school district, they have free lunches. Well, they're not free. Somebody's paying for them. So how much does it cost and who's going to pay for it? That's the key question.
Thank you. Victoria?
As a family advocate, I will defend families first. And I don't think any family wants to sit at home and say, you know what, I want free this. Every family wants to work. And yes, childcare is an issue. But you know what? We need to change our state needs to change some of those rules and regulation, and our city needs to change some of the city codes, because that makes it difficult. If somebody wants to open childcare, the process is very long because there's city codes that they have to follow. There's also state laws that people have to follow. So we need to start lifting some of those things if we really want to open a childcare, because I don't think anybody wants to sit home and not want to work and provide for their family. And I work with family every day, and I can tell you, I know exactly how it is. Not only do we open childcare for just all the children, but we also need to make sure that we have accessibility childcare for those children with mental health and children with disability.
Thank you. Al?
You know, in the legislature, they have passed programs. There was remodeling loans put into place, and there's a number of things that have been done in conjunction with the city as well. But again, the question is, what is the role of the city government on childcare? Should they have a pool of money where they pay for it? and that everybody gets to take so much out of the pool. I'm not so sure that that is the role of city government if they look through their home rule charter and said, yeah, you should do that or shouldn't do that. But we need to make sure that the child care is safe. And sometimes the regulations are really difficult to get more people to have child care. But the point is, do you or do you not want a background check on everybody who works here? I think you want a background check to make sure that that person is safe to be working with your kids. So there are rules and regulations that are tough, but as a parent, I'm sure you want them to be safe. So I think that we have to decide what can the city do, the state do, and in conjunction without putting a burden on the rest of the government.
Thank you. Ahmed.
All right, I just need a breather for 1 minute for a comment that was just made. First of all, I agree with you, Dave, Mr. Popcorn. There is no such thing as anything free. But if you are in touch with the community, there is no childcare that has availability immediately for families that need it. There's a long waiting list of a year to 2 years that individuals have to go in a waiting list and quit their jobs to. Because I work in a nonprofit, I see the stats every single day. There is no availability. What we need is more accessibility so that families have more childcare available, more centers that they can take their kids so that they can go to work and contribute to Fargo revenue, contribute to society. So I really take it to offense to hear and that there is childcare availability, in knowing that every day. That's what I focus on in seeing in the community and talking to the residents every single day that I go door knock, that they struggle, but then we hear that there's availability. No, there isn't availability.
Thank you. Denise.
Yeah, we're in crisis when it comes to childcare right now in Fargo. I have met with several childcare centers, owners, workers, and businesses about this issue. Childcare is a workforce issue, and that's why it matters to the city, and it matters to Fargo, and it matters to the chamber, and it matters to the EDC. And I can tell you it's not about people wanting free childcare.
Right.
It is about accessibility. One of the largest child care centers in Fargo has 350 families on its waiting list. So what do? As North Dakota's largest city, we need to be working with the state on re-examining a couple of ideas. One is a family child care tax credit program. And that addresses the issue of what they're facing right now, which is a lack of staff because they can't pay the wages that a family can afford to have a stable child care environment. Secondly, let's incent businesses to offer stipends for families, which would also be recruitment and a retention pool. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I get my 45 seconds back?
I'm afraid we'll have to move on. Matua, we're starting with you for the next question. Mental health is a community concern. What are your thoughts on how to address mental illness and the stigma associated with it in the city of Fargo?
Thank you very much. Mental health is a big issue in our community. I have seen that. I had partnered with Clay County Social Services and Health Department. And mental health is a big issue in our city here. We see people roaming around here, not just because they choose to be homeless. And most of the time they get called and it's become a police issue and they release them to town again. I think we need to focus that, and I'm not a health expert here, but I can leave that to public health to take care of that. And I will leave that to work with them and find those solutions. Because once we have people that have mental health, they needed that help. They can recover and they will get back to our community and also work in our cities.
Thank you. Dave?
I think it's obviously a big issue. Obviously in the downtown, especially in the summertime, we have lots of people outside, and a lot of those people have mental health issues. And to me, like you were talking about, it's the police have a repetitive number of people. They know who they are, and what we have to do is figure out a way to solve that and to get them to have services. It's the same people, or the same with people that have drug addiction problems. we need to get them help and not keep having them go through this revolving door. And so I'm not sure we're doing enough right now. And a lot of these issues are pushed down on us from things out of our control, but it's an issue. And like we were talking about the downtown, if you want to have it keep being popular and having people come down here, it has to be safe, but it has to be safe for everybody. And to me, that's not the case. And so it's an issue, and I guess I'm not sure we have all the tools. I think we're going to have to work with the state and also our community health department, things like that. But it's a very serious one. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
Hi, thank you. Mental health is a big issue, something I come across all the time as a family advocate. And so it is an issue that needs to be addressed, but we need to make sure that we're bringing in the proper professionals. They need to sit at the table with the city and the state. And how do we address? It's an issue that's not only affecting adults, it's affecting our children. Right now, as a family advocate, I cannot tell you how many times that when we call Perry St. John have a child placed in there due to mental health, they don't have beds. So this is it's a big issue. And we're talking about childcare right now. 5 years from now, we will be talking about mental health, about our children's mental health. So we need to really start addressing that as we're addressing childcare, because that's also an issue that we need to really, really pay attention to.
Thank you. Al?
Quite obviously, everybody has mentioned it is a real problem. It's especially a problem when you go to the Cass County Jail or you go to the state penitentiary. They don't have enough people to address the issues to properly give the right amount of counseling to help these people get better. So if we're doing anything, we need to up our game on a number of professionals we try and get into the field to help people. You know, whether there's many different ways we can probably do that, but we need more mental health professionals at all levels. That when someone's incarcerated, the last thing you would expect to do is say you're in here for 30 days and we're going to let you go, but we didn't do anything to help you get better. So when you get back out, you're going to be better off as a person and probably survive in our community. We need to up our game. If that's a priority of the cities and it's a problem, then we should look at at upping our game of what we do for training and supporting mental health workers.
Thank you. Ahmed?
Al, I couldn't agree with you more. I think mental health is a community issue, and I think we, as a city administrators, government, they need to more invest. And there's a lot of resources in our community that great nonprofits in the community really focus on and try to find solutions to help people. I know that through nonprofits that I have worked with as a collaborative efforts, they place counselors in schools, you know, and they work with the communities to address those issues early on with kids all the way to adults. So I think it comes down to really looking at community and finding those resources and making those resources available so that everyone is collectively working together to solve those issues.
Thank you. Denise?
Yeah, I agree with much of what has been said. Mental health is an issue all across this country, especially following 2 years of a pandemic. I sat down with Cass Public Health Director. I sat down with Jan Eliason with the Engagement Center and Harm Reduction. We've done incredible work as a community. In fact, it's one of the leading efforts in the Midwest of what we're doing as far as harm reduction and addressing mental health issues. I sat down with the Chief of Police and had this conversation, including what are they doing for his staff and our police officers coming from a law enforcement family. We need to bring in the right stakeholders and have this discussion. Number one, what is the problem we're trying to solve for? And number two, collectively, using our wisdom and our expertise, what is the strategy for this community that's going to address the problems that, you know, are very much underlying a number of the, you know, challenges that our most vulnerable have in our community. So I certainly support the work, and I think we can commend the work of our divisions that are addressing this issue.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you. As a former county crime prevention officer and a peace officer, I don't believe mental health is a crime prevention issue. I repeat that. I don't think mental health is a crime prevention issue. People are sick, they're not criminals. I don't know what can be done in some cases. Be nice if there was something someone or someplace or city-sponsored, neighborhood-focused place you could send folks who have mental problems. But I think we do need to better think out our processes, and we need to focus city policies that will help best. And I think those have to be focused on neighborhoods more.
Thank you. I think we'll have some candidates ready to speak to this next question. We've received multiple questions from various voters. Special assessments have been a longtime concern of Fargo residents. Are there specific changes you would make to the city's current special assessment system? We're going to start with you, Dave.
So the interesting thing is special assessments are regionalized. That's how we pay for infrastructure. So like, to give you an example, in front of my house, if the road gets redone, it gets assessed to everybody in my neighborhood. And to talk to Al's point about what special assessments do is it keeps the small builder able to build. If we eliminated special assessments, it would eliminate small builders that do 1 or 2 houses, because only big developers would be able to afford to pay for all the infrastructure that you need to build a development. So we try to keep it as low as possible. We've done some modifications to our special assessments with various different commissioners over the past years, so we've done a good job. But to say that we need to eliminate them, if you say that, then how are you going to pay for that? That's the key thing. It's obviously, to get votes is very popular. We had a city commissioner 4 years ago that promised to eliminate them. But then you have to replace that. And that's my question. I don't think you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Victoria?
Thank you so much. I think this is the first time I'm going to agree with you, Dave Popcorn, is that you cannot eliminate a special assessment, because I look into that. There's only a group of individual in Bismarck who's tried to eliminate it, and they tried it for over 5 to 7 years, and they've been in front of legislator a couple times on that, and I did have conversation with them. So I know that we cannot eliminate it, but we need to be able to we need to continue with that task force. They had a task force in 2018. We need to continue with them and look at, do we eliminate special assessment on the older homes? And how do we find a way to be able to still keep the infrastructure going? So we need to find a way to be able to lift some of those burden on those families, especially elderly, who have fixed income. And when you have a special assessment, it's unexpected expense, right? So we need to come up with a better way to solve it. I know we cannot eliminate it, but you know what? We can look at how we can decrease that burden on families.
Thank you. Al?
Well, I knew it would come back to special assessments again, because if there's a tax that the people of Fargo or most cities that have it, probably the least loved tax of all is the house tax that they get from the city of Fargo and the county, because it's gotten to be rather large. And it is a detriment to first-time home buyers. It's a detriment to affordable housing. And what they have done by changing the percentages that the city pays and that the taxpayer pays have helped. And I'm not sure, I bought a lot of lots from developers that as a small builder, and that wasn't the only reason I bought them, because I could afford the lot and I assumed the specials. But we need to take a good, hard look at special assessment and see if there's other ways that of which we can streamline the process. We can find a more cost-efficient way to have our specs designed for these cities and these sewers. And don't let the city take a percentage back on top when they're all done.
Thank you. Ahmed?
I'll use an example because I remember a few years ago I worked on a transportation barrier that really affected certain areas in our community, specifically Industrial Park. I was told by the city, by other community members, that this is not going to work because this service hasn't existed for 30 years. I was able to work with the community by bringing the right people to the table. We found solutions. So when someone tells me that this cannot be done, it's just an effort that's no one's trying it. Something can be done. It's just by bringing the right people to the table.
Thank you. Denise?
So special assessments are a funding mechanism that allows for infrastructure for a house to be built to ensure that it's a functioning home when you move in, and it's billed to homeowners over time to make it more affordable. If you take away special assessments, it would have to go to your property taxes, because the only funding mechanism today for infrastructure come from special assessments and a portion of the sales tax that we collect. So the reality is the money would have to come from somewhere. And I think, certainly a city commissioner's job is to be a steward of every single tax dollar collected and the total impact of taxes that every citizen pays. So I think you need to take a holistic look at what every homeowner is paying to the city for the functioning and the running of that city. And I think that we could do a better job of talking about other incentives we could employ that would help alleviate the impacts that special assessments have on homeowners. And back to my point about using some of the creative ideas for developers to use incentives, what can we do in residential areas?
Thank you. Tom?
I had a note on this. I thought this question would come up. And so I wrote here, you can't replace special assessments. And then I added with nothing. I decided to leave that in there too. And then I also added with more than just campaign talk, because that's what we're doing up here. We're campaign talking about special assessments. And I don't know, is there another mechanism available to fund these great, big, expensive projects and not finance them over many years like most of us homeowners do with our homes? I mean, if I could get a special assessment from my kids for living in a house, I would, but not going to work. So what I think we need to do is get the neighborhoods involved. It's their infrastructure, and they should have a say. Thank you.
Thank you. Matur?
Thank you very much. That question is dear to my heart. As a homeowner, I had $46,000 on a special assessment. That add up to whatever I'm paying on the principals. That's like plus $500. Our city currently have $550 million debt on a special assessment. And the plan that they have is 70-30. That plan is not good at all. It's not good for people like me. It's not good for the people that own homes in Fargo. That need to go. We need to get rid of it. My plan is to reach out to Legacy Fund, pay that debt, and find a solution to start all over. So we'll start all over. We have to have a solution. The solution that city have is not good. Not good for me, not good for all homeowners, even the renters. It need to go.
Thank you. So this does conclude the question and answer portion of our forum this evening. We apologize if your question was not asked this evening. We did have quite a few come in. If your question was not asked, go and approach the candidates after the forum. I'm sure that they would love to chat with you about your questions. So thank you to all of our candidates for participating. Again, if you'd like to learn more about your candidates, please visit vote411.org starting Thursday, May 5th to help you learn more about their positions on important issues. Don't forget to vote in the primary election coming June 14th. This is when local races, including City Commission, will be decided. So I'll begin our closing remarks with a little prompt that I think will tie into them quite well from one of our voters. In a wide array of candidates in this field, why should Fargoans give you their vote? What experiences do you have that separate you from the other candidates? Victoria, we'll begin with you.
Is this my closing or is this?
This is your closing statement, just a prompt to start you off.
Well, I think Fargo I'm asking for your vote because as a family advocate, I came here as a young little girl. I live with my grandma. I loved her dearly. A blonde hair, she always taught me one thing. Never compromise your integrity. Always do right by the people and find your passion. I find my passion in serving people. I have always served people. As a community member, as a founder of a nonprofit organization, that is what I do. And I will, if you vote for me, I will always put that first. Serve the community with integrity, honesty, and put the people before any special interest. Thank you.
Thank you. Al?
Yes, thank you again for hosting this. I had the privilege of serving in the legislature for Fargo for 26 years, 10 years of those as a leader. And I often think that the most important role that you can have in any leadership role is to make sure of two things. The first thing is you never forget who you're working for. And the second thing you never forget is whose money you're spending. You know, I'm a limited government guy. I've proven that over the years. I like reasonable regulations, not overburdensome. I like free enterprise. I like persons to be responsible for their actions. And I like especially the rule of law. Follow the rule of law. We have many laws on the books. Law and order and public safety are crucial to the success of Fargo. I also believe that I have the leadership skills, the time, and the ability, and I'm willing to dive full speed into helping make Fargo an even better place to live and work.
Thank you. Ahmed?
Thank you for that question, and thank you for hosting this. Just to come back around, this is a very impressive time, historical, actually, to see the amount of women leadership that are running for office, persons of color running for office to make a difference in our community. I think we need individuals in our government that speak for the people that live here, that look into the workforce issues that we have, childcare issues that we have, affordable housing that we have. We need people in our city government that actually are being affected by the things that they want to change in this community. And with that, because I work at a nonprofit, I see the challenges every single time that I go to work and look at stats and trying to figure it out, okay, how do we find a innovative solution to get more people to jobs? And that's one of the things that I mentioned earlier about transportation. It was 30 years with no transportation in the industrial park. I was able to successfully implement a service in there, and thousands of people are employed right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Denise?
Yes, thank you, League. And it is impressive to see the diversity running and the interest. I'm not running for this office because it's a political office. I'm running for this office because it's a nonpartisan office. The city commission structure means that every commissioner is at large and serves all of Fargo residents. And with your vote, I will be a city commissioner for all citizens. I will do my homework, be pragmatic, and make the best decisions for all of Fargo, regardless of party affiliation. But it really comes down to this. I live in the Jefferson neighborhood for a reason. My husband grew up 2 blocks from where he grew up. I love my neighborhood. I love Fargo. And I will bring that same passion to the City Commission.
Thank you. Tom?
Thank you. I know unions, I know associations, I know enterprises, and I've studied civics. Neighborhoods are not part of the city governing process or voting process right now. The neighborhoods are out. The way it is, neighborhoods have no suffrage, but we have important neighborhood input that doesn't get put in. Neighborhoods are blocked out of the governing process. I'm here to point out a fair and reasonable way to fix these unsolved problems beyond the election. I hope you agree that a modern council government is something to think about anyway. I'm very grateful for the League, the important work you do to keep thinking voters thinking, keeping us informed on the issues, the candidates, and the facts. Thank you for this opportunity tonight. I know my fellow candidates agree, I'd say all of them. And I say vote for all who support neighborhoods first. So please consider me when you vote for your neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you. Matur?
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event. Thank you to the City of Fargo, and thank to you, everyone here in the audience, and to folks who are listening from home. I know how hard it is to raise a family. My platform is one for working families and for homeowners. I'll fight to end special assessment. I'll fight to keep the cost of living affordable, and I'll fight for better wages for our workers. I will be a voice for the people who need change, If you agree that we need change, if you agree that families are struggling, then I humbly ask for your vote on June 14. Again, my name is Matur Alir. You can learn more about my vision for Fargo at www.maturalir.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave Pepcorn. I'd appreciate your vote. The reason I would hope you would vote for me, I've been serving for 12 years. I have a pretty good track record. What I kind of consider my forte is I like asking questions, and then when people come after me, then I know I'm on the right track. I've done that a lot. I did that with pensions when I first was on the city commission. I did that with Lutheran Social Services. I don't know if you remember that, but they came to the city commission and I started asking them questions, and now they're bankrupt. And all the people getting services at Lutheran Social Services, they had to go other places. And no one was held accountable. The executive director now works for the governor of North Dakota, the board of directors, no accountability. So right now I'm working on the airport where I'm asking questions that makes a lot of people uncomfortable. I kind of enjoy that because I know I'm onto something. And with the developers, we have one going on right now. He's not following through, so we're going to remove his benefits. That's what we got to do. I have an excellent track record. I'd appreciate your vote on June 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our first forum for this evening. Please join us for the second section of City Commission candidates in about 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming to the Candidates Forum this evening. We want to thank the candidates for joining us for part 2 of the Fargo City Commission Candidates Forum, hosted by the League of Women Voters of the Red River Valley. My name is Ashley Ladbury Hrichena. I'm currently serving on the League's Board of Directors as the president, and I'll be the moderator for this forum. The first half of the forum, of course, with the other half of the candidates, just occurred. The video for that will be available online. So this forum is being streamed live and will also be played back on the City of Fargo's government PEG TV channel, which is TV Fargo 56. The recording will also be posted to our website, the League of Women Voters website, and our Facebook page. The City of Fargo also posts it on their Facebook page and on their website. So there are multiple opportunities for viewing the recordings if you do miss a part or want to go back and watch. So as we stated, due to the large number of candidates for the City Commission, we've split into 2 groups, which were randomly selected into 2 sections. So a little bit about the League of Women Voters. We are a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, and we work to increase understanding of major public policy issues and influence public policy through education and advocacy. If you'd like to learn more about the League of Women Voters, please visit our website or Facebook page. We also do have membership brochures in the back if you'd like to take a look. We really want to thank the City of Fargo for providing the space and the technical assistance for this evening's events. And we want to thank all of our volunteers for greeting, collecting questions, and timekeeping. We're grateful for your help and truly could not do this without them. We also want to take just a moment to highlight our 2022 voter guide, which is vote411.org. It's a nationwide League of Women Voters effort. So people in North Dakota, Minnesota, all over the country can go to vote411.org to find information on their polling location, get personalized ballot information, and compare candidates who are seeking your vote. And candidates, if you have not completed the Vote 411 questionnaire yet, please do that soon. It will be published May 5th. Candidates for like any race anywhere. If you know any candidates, please remind them to complete the Vote 411 questionnaire. The guide is going to be published the evening of May 5th, so you still have a little more than a week, 2 weeks here to fill that out. And we'd also like to thank Folkways for sponsoring the voter guide for 2022. So just to begin, I'll review the rules and procedures really quick. So we've had questions submitted in advance by the public online and in person here tonight. Questions were screened for clarity, and we had many questions on some really hot topics, so those were combined into one question. All candidates will be given an opportunity to address each question. Each candidate will have 1 minute for their opening statement, which we'll begin over here with Will Thompson for the opening statement. And and then every person will take their turn in order. And then for the questions, that will move to Vess for the first question, and then again, like basically then the next person will answer the next one first, and so on, so that when everybody gets a chance to be the first person to answer and the last person to answer. When you hear, you can watch the time up above to keep an eye out for your time that's remaining, and when you hear the buzz or the beep, then you'll know that your time has expired. We ask that you just complete your sentence or thought so that we can move on to the next candidate question. We also appreciate the audience consideration in maintaining a quiet room so all candidates have the opportunity to answer their questions fully and in a timely manner. So we'll begin with Will for the opening statement and then proceed down the line. You can go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Ashley, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this forum. My name is Will Thompson, he, him. I grew up in South Fargo. I graduated from Davies in 2016 before attending the University of Minnesota in the Twin Cities, and then I came back home. I would like nothing more than to, buy a home, start a family, right here in this town that I grew up in. Unfortunately, I see certain economic and environmental barriers and hurdles that I don't think that I am able to accomplish on my own. And, if I can't get over these barriers with all the privilege that I've been afforded in my life, working 2 jobs, how do we expect most of our community to get over these barriers? So I'm running because I think we need a new perspective on the status quo. We need youth. And we need bold ideas, and I'm bringing all of those to the table. So I ask for your vote today. Thank you.
Thank you. Vess.
Hello, Ashley, and thank you for having me here tonight. My name is Vess Marinov, and I'm a new American here. I'm born in Bulgaria, moved to the U.S. in 2003, lived in Fargo, graduated from NDSU, and after college, I decided to dedicate my life to career of public service and got into law enforcement. I've been in law enforcement for 11 years now, and I feel that there's no greater calling and a greater honor than to serve your community. Living in Fargo, I see that there are certain issues and that there are certain problems here, and the top issue, in my opinion, is public safety. And I feel that there should be a new perspective to the table to help empower our law enforcement officers and to help secure safer community. And I feel that through my experience in law enforcement, I can bring that new perspective to the table. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip.
Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, like Ashley said, my name is Philip Deary. I was born and raised in Fargo, right up the block, actually, so it's like my old hood per se. I went to Hawthorne Elementary. I attended Agassiz, Discovery. Graduated from Fargo South in 2002. I took the construction route after high school. I did masonry for like 9 years. Went back to college, got a college degree in construction management. I've been a project manager, a warehouse manager. I've done framing. I'm running for city commission. So I'm currently homeless. And it's just a major issue in this town. You might not think it's that big, or we talk about it a lot, but that's my main platform, I guess. Anyone and everybody, gets a chance or should have a chance. So thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Hi there. My name is Jennifer Benson. I am a current school board member, Fargo School Board. This is my 8th year, 2nd term. I have served on the Community Development Committee for the last year. I am a Fargo native. I grew up on the north side of Fargo, graduating from Fargo North High and earning my degree at MSUM. I have over 20 years of experience in pharmaceuticals, working for J&J within mental health and the neuroscience division. I have 3 kiddos and now live on the south side of Fargo. And one of my children is in the military, and all 3 of them, actually, she's a senior, so she is considered a split training for the North Dakota Guard, and the other 2 are high school and one is middle school. So I just want you to know a little bit about me. I believe in strong communities are anchored in a spirit of collaboration, and I will save the rest for my next question.
Thank you. Jody.
Hi, thank you for having me here today, and I'm actually super humbled to be sitting up here right now. I grew up in Valley City, North Dakota. I grew up on a dairy farm with my grandparents and my parents in that area. I am a self-made serial entrepreneur in this community of the last 20 plus years. I have built from ground up 5 successful businesses. I have sold most of them, one to a Fortune 500 company, actually in the last 3 years. I am also the co-founder of 2 nonprofits in this community, People's Rising Academy, and we're also building the Garden of Healing by the Shields Arena in the community. I'm a huge mental health advocate, and I had a pretty significant life change myself about 8 years ago, and that's why I'm so passionate to help others lead their best, healthiest life in this community. And I'm also very fiscally conservative, and I'm a numbers girl, and that's why I feel I'm qualified to run for this position. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Brandon.
Hi, my name is Brandon Krieger, and I'm a local school teacher at Discovery. I have a wife and 4 daughters. But this isn't about me. First, I've been doing this for about a year, and I don't know if you can see it, but I have my very first meeting here watching, and it's about the Eagle Valley 4th edition that was happened back in March 8th of last year. Those individuals at this Eagle Valley 4th edition were petitioning against their lot from being changed from Fargo Parks to being SR4 lots or SR4 lots. They petitioned, they came, they talked, and their voices weren't heard. And what they got the response from the response they got from the city of commission, or what the response they got from the city commission was that they're gonna like what they put down there. They did their research, they invested, they expected a park to be there, and it wasn't there. Communication is a huge issue, and my platform is infrastructure, communication, and vision for South Fargo. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna.
Thanks. My name is Anna Johnson. I'm an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Chippewa Indians in Belcourt, North Dakota. I was born and raised in Bismarck, and I moved here to go to school at NDSU, where I got my bachelor's degree in fine art. I'm a local Native American artist. Some of you have probably seen some of my artwork downtown on the utility box wraps. I have 4 of them currently and a bench in front of Halberstad's. I also painted the A in the Greetings from Fargo mural on Roberts and First. I also have some artwork in the mall, so I'm kind of out there with my art right now. I also professionally drive a dump truck for Aggregate Industries. I previously for them was driving a ready-mix truck, so I have my hands in all of the baskets. And I believe that representation matters, and that's why I'm running.
Thank you. All right, so we'll begin our questions. So the first question, we'll start with Bess. Probably a hot topic for every city commission, every state legislature around the country. How do you propose Fargo attract and retain workers?
Well, first of all, we have to have a safe community. So we can have the most tax-friendly place, we can have the best businesses, but if crime is rising, and indeed crime is rising, people will not come. We have seen 46% of rise of violent crime. There's rise of property crime, and that is a concern. We also have to be fiscally conservative and to cut red tape. We can't overspend. We also have to be business friendly. We have to allow businesses to build, to grow, and to prosper. So community safety, no red tape, and attract people with with sensible taxing, with removing the special assessments, which are a huge burden, and by allowing our community to prosper.
Thank you. Philip.
I would say competition, I guess, the whole way around, like competitive wages for, competitive pay. I noticed a lot of people they say they're hiring, but they're not hiring. I guess I don't really get that, The sign says they need help, hostess, server, dishwasher. It's right there on the sign, but then they never call you back. I think I've applied for over 24 jobs in like the last 50 days. And it's either I didn't have a cell phone that they didn't, they wouldn't call the shelter, or I don't know. I just think there needs to be a different way to go about it, I guess I don't know how to fix it off the top of my head, but something needs to change. Either we bring outsiders in for competition, or we have the right people and we keep them from, the schools that are located in the state.
Thank you. Jennifer.
Thank you. I would say my answer would be affordable housing, and not just low income. I mean affordable housing across the board, fiscally responsible. We need to offer some predictability when it comes to special assessments and property taxes. Safety, absolutely, should be a top priority, and attracting businesses and high-paying jobs. I see a lot of opportunity within partnering with business community and education around CTE, career and tech ed. And so those are some of the key areas I would say need to be of high priority.
Thank you. Jody.
Well, number one, retainability for workforce is not just happening, issues with that is not just happening in Fargo. This is happening all over the country. So to say that it's an issue here alone is unfortunate. But the thing is I think people come here because of the hardworking ethics and morals and values that are in this community. I know that's the reason that I moved back to this area. I had lived West Coast and East Coast a few different years and just really felt strongly to come back to this community. And making it affordable for people to live here is obviously a number one priority. Assessments on homes, I think, are out of control. It's just unpredictable as far as what people's bills are going to be every month. And we need to make sure and get money back in the pockets of our families here so they can go to work, put gas in their car, buy food for their family, and take care of their children. So that's really all I have, is to just make sure that we're financially making it, able for people to live here too.
Thank you. Brandon.
So I see workforce shortage and how to attract people here. So it's a two-pronged issue. The city employment is competing against the private sector, which is again with city wages and stuff like that. Those need to go up if we're going to attract to supply the city with the people they need. But also looking at the private sector and anyone else. As long as the city needs to match, with the city as a whole, a solution which I think hits two issues with one stone, is a workforce and childcare would be to promote and discuss with local companies and businesses the idea of on-site childcare, just like almost private insurance. Also, NDSU is a gold mine for young, youthful minds coming out of college looking for jobs. And I think that Fargo already has programs in place to pull those minds in. I think we can be more aggressive with that to fill in those roles. This type of lifestyle, in turn, will put Fargo on the map as an innovative solution to childcare and worker shortages in all sectors, private and public, to draw working individuals into the city. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anna.
You want to repeat the question for me? It's been a long time since I heard it.
Yes, okay. How do you propose Fargo attract and retain workers?
Sure, great, thank you. I think that the biggest issue that we face is the workforce shortage is because we're not paying a livable wage. We need to be strengthening our unions and paying the wages that people deserve to be paid for the jobs they're doing. We need to have affordable housing. And when we talk about affordable housing, not the housing for low income necessarily, but the housing for the workers, the baristas, the waiters, the hotel staff. Those people who work and live downtown should be able to live and work in their neighborhoods and not be forced out because of rent being too unattainable. And I don't begrudge anybody who wants to be a professional and live in a nice high-rise condo downtown, but I also think that we should have an affordability level there for others as well.
Thank you. Will.
Yeah, so 20% growth over the last decade. Clearly, the growing is already happening. We need to focus on retaining those people, though. And what we need to do as a city, then, is we need to be meeting the material needs of our people. So 41% of renters in the metro area, 41% of renters in the metro area are what's called cost burdened by their rent. 56% of people in this city rent. So that works out to being about 23%. Almost a quarter of people in this community can't afford the rent. They're cost burdened by their rent. So we need to be providing affordable housing to people. We need to be providing living wages to our workers. It really takes a culture shift. We need to gear our city towards the working class and not the big developers.
All right. Thank you. All right, so next question, we'll start with Philip. The city of Fargo has placed a focus on its core neighborhoods. What are your plans for South Fargo neighborhoods, especially those past 52nd Avenue South?
What are the core neighbors that are considered core neighborhoods, I guess?
I guess I wouldn't know the list,
Yeah.
but we'd be thinking of like downtown, older historic neighborhoods.
Yeah, like South Central, 58103, 58102.
There you go.
I think
Yeah.
South Fargo will grow itself pretty much, as long as we manage it. I mean, there's plenty of developers that want to keep moving that way. I think what Fargo needs to do is revitalize what it already has, rejuvenate communities that have maybe been broken down by a stigma of, oh, you live here, you live there, you don't live in South Fargo. I would consider, Hawthorne a core neighborhood. I got 8th Street's pretty prominent, 9th Street, St. Anthony's in the neighborhood. South Fargo will pretty much grow itself, at least in my mind. Thank you.
Thank you. Jennifer.
So neighborhood schools have always been really the core of our neighborhoods, at least when we grew up, right? Our neighborhoods on the north side are named after our schools. And so I see this as a significant opportunity to really partner with the community and creating those neighborhoods as strong, vibrant community neighborhoods, just like we did up north down south. And so I know that the city has really invested in a lot of data analysis that is now basically ready within the next several of months and ready for maybe implementation. And I'm so sorry. I had surgery on my arm on Tuesday, and I feel like my train of thought is just not completely there. So I'm really stumbling. I'm trying really hard to keep my train of thought, but I do want to just apologize because I feel like I'm not doing a very good job of it. So I will pass on to Jody.
Thank you. Jody?
Well, I think one of the things to remember is that downtown Fargo is completely different than South Fargo or anything 52nd Avenue and South. And I think it's really important that we have representatives that live in each area of this community that are on the commission board and such. Because the problem is most of the commissioners now actually, I believe, live, mostly North Fargo, north of Main. And it's just a completely different community. Not that it's bad or good. It's just when you come downtown Fargo, it's just different from South Fargo. And I think another way is to let's make sure we're not just incentivizing projects in downtown Fargo or incentivizing, at all, to be honest with you, because if you're incentivizing everything, is it really just incentivizing? So I think we need to concentrate and focus on the less assessments on these homes that are being built in these neighborhoods in South Fargo, because I'll be honest with you, I have $44,000 in assessments on my home. That doubles my taxes, if not more than my actual tax base right now. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon.
Hi, could I have the question again?
So the city of Fargo has placed a focus on its core neighborhoods. What are your plans for South Fargo neighborhoods, especially those past 52nd Avenue South?
Well, personally, I live down just off of 52nd Avenue South, and there's so much potential for South Fargo that is not being addressed. Vision, that's why it's one of my biggest platforms. For my platforms, I've broken up into achievable one for my first 4 years. Goals that all can be achieved. Increasing map buses down there, transportation from kids from Davies, for example, who have jobs. Where do they need to go? If they need to get to work, how do they get there? If they don't have a car, stuff like that. We also look at our the last 3 years, 30-40% of 30 to 40-year-olds have come into Fargo, established families, and we need to address that. They're looking for entertainment, family-friendly entertainment that's not downtown. We need to start looking towards more south and more than just Sanford buildings. Fargo Moorhead Science Museum is another example. A new arts establishment for ballets, plays. These things are important, or orchestras. These things are important to the society that we need to address and need to push for in South Fargo. We are untapped potential. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna.
Yeah, I think some of the things that we're not taking into account are the things that are already happening. There are a lot of revitalizing in some of these neighborhoods right now that are going on. And like Brandon said, we do need to expand our transportation into places that people need access to. That's always going to be a given situation with an ever-growing community. But that's not the only issue we have. When we go into these core neighborhood communities, like say the Island Park Hawthorne neighborhood, they're already right now working on programs to create and revitalize Island Park. You know, there's so many things that are already happening that if I think we can foster those relationships, we can grow our community together.
Okay, thank you. Will?
Yeah, well, when you start to get south of 52nd, the city turns into a bit of a food desert down there. And it's unfortunate that the Walmart and the Aldis and the Hornbachers, they're all, or Cashwise, they're all kind of bunched together. I think they should have been, you know, more spread out so we don't see as much of a food desert south of 52nd. But what I would do is I'd like to open up the zoning laws so that we can have neighborhood corner stores in every neighborhood. I don't think there's any reason why we shouldn't have corner stores in every neighborhood. That'll make the neighborhoods feel even more welcoming, more homely and stuff. And then also, yes, expanding transportation down south. That's going to be key. You know, we need to make South Fargo feel like it's just as much a part of Fargo as all the other parts of Fargo.
Thank you. Yes.
So we do focus a lot on the downtown, and we have to realize that Fargo is not just the downtown. I feel a way to empower everybody in our town, especially people living down in South Fargo, is resonating from what Jody said. Is I feel that we need equal representation, and I feel that our city should be divided into wards, and instead of commissioners, we should have council members from the respective neighborhoods, people that will be intimately familiar with the issues in their neighborhood. So that's one. Two, we have so much new developments down there and south of 52nd. And specials, especially specials for new builds, are huge. But historically, neighborhoods such as Edgewood have shown us that you can develop a neighborhood without having the special, and you can incorporate that price into the home price, so you don't have to burden citizens. So in general, divide our city and get rid of specials.
Thank you. So Jennifer, the next question will begin with you. What specific steps do you believe should be taken to make affordable homeownership more accessible to the residents of Fargo?
Okay, we'll try again. For starters, I think that we often operate in silos. And what I mean by that is the city and the school district and the county and the parks all set their budgets independent of one another. And from my time on the school board, I see many opportunities where we can really strengthen that collaboration and that partnership, and the result being a more steady growth rate for our property owners. I'm going to do it again. So let me just leave it at that.
Jody. Thanks.
Okay.
Jody.
So I believe, again, going back to assessments, how to make homes more affordable is we need to eliminate these assessments. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but the city is currently about $500 million in debt because of assessments. And so they're basically taking and putting these assessments on a credit card and being charged interest, and turn around and you're paying that interest above and beyond on your taxes. So if you don't have an assessment on your home now, you will in the future, guaranteed. And it's just not going to go away. So I'm a very firm believer that, and I have a plan to actually get rid of assessments, and I'll go into in one of these other questions. But you know, that's the way that you make it affordable, is you have to operate the city like it's a properly functioning business. And in order to do that, you can't be losing this ridiculous amount of money every year, and it falls back on the taxpayer. Absolutely, 100%. So.
Thanks, Jody. Brandon.
Hi, again, I have a picture here. I don't know if you guys can see it. I'll try to make sure it's available for the camera here. But basically, it's showing, it was from the last 2 weeks ago, showing how South Fargo has an influx of very expensive houses. But yet, the core has all the inexpensive houses. If you want to aim for get more homeowners into the community, you have to meet us at our income. New college graduates, we're going to graduate $50,000, $60,000 a year, okay? So you need more SR4s in the South Fargo. where the employment is, where the businesses are growing. You're excluding an entire market of people who may actually want to buy a new house from South Fargo by allowing these developers to create $30,000 to $40,000 worth of approximation of houses in South Fargo. It's skewing the data because not everyone wants to live in the core neighborhoods. And also another one mentions that and another question, you can't get rid of special assessments, and I'm looking forward to addressing that in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna.
Well, I do think that we have to do something about the special assessments, but I don't think we're ever going to be rid of them. It's something that we have to have in order to function as a city. What I do think we need to have is more accountability and accessibility for the people who are getting assessed, for the contractors who are doing the assessment, for the homeowners who are getting assessed to be able to afford that. And we need to figure out a better plan for that, for people, for homeowners. I also think that there's so many different types of assessments that people often get confused by it. And when you talk about the special assessments that people get on their houses is a lot different than the special assessments that the city charges for developing in our town. And I think that we need to think about how that looks and how we go about from there.
Thank you. Yeah.
Well, expansion and promotion of the homestead tax credit program, that's one concrete way of going about it. But also my bold idea is a publicly owned city bank that's going to be a financial instrument for us to use. You could use a publicly owned city bank to issue low interest loans so that small developers could construct affordable homes. The city in 2020 had $233 million in government funds on their balance. Instead of taking that money and bonding it and going through Wall Street and using that as the financial instrument, a publicly owned city bank could save us some money by being it more in-house, keeping it on Main Street instead of Wall Street. So if we took that $233 million and we deposited it into a publicly owned bank and then loaned that back to the city, we would basically be saving, using Vanguard's numbers, and Vanguard has the best of numbers, we'd be saving about $7 million over going through Wall Street to doing the special assessment sort of situation with bonding.
Thank you. Beth.
Could you please repeat the question again?
Yes. What specific steps do you believe should be taken to make affordable home ownership more accessible to the residents of Fargo?
So affordable real estate is a nationwide issue, and unfortunately, I don't think us here in the city of Fargo can really do much about it. But what we can do about it is we can focus on special assessments, and we can because special assessments are what burdens our citizens here in Fargo. And we just need to get rid of special assessments altogether. Special assessments for new build, again, historically speaking, neighborhoods like Edgewood have done it. Every developer can do it. The city is just writing a check to the developers and then after that passing the bill on to the consumer, the people that buy the real estate. Special assessments for existing infrastructure, we already have the money for that. We already have the 0.5% of sales tax that is dedicated for infrastructure. That adds up to about $14 million a year. And the amount of money that the city collects from special assessment adds to about $15 million a year. But we don't use that money. We put that money into the water and the sewer plant that are already self-sufficient, and then after X period of time, we move it out of there. So we just need to get rid of special assessments, period.
Okay, thank you. And Philip.
Is home ownership, is that considered a house or an apartment? Or I guess I'm kind of confused with that. I mean,
so something that you own,
that you
versus
own.
rent. Yeah, is what
so
the
like a
question is
condo.
asking.
All right. That I'm not too sure how to guess to conquer. I've never owned property. I was going to kind of spin off on the rental side of it, that it's a nightmare to get an apartment, but since that's not the question, I guess I would have to consult with maybe some homeowners, my brother, dad, something like that, to figure out how to address the issue, I guess, without personally going through mortgage applications and loans and interest rates and all that. So I guess I'll kind of defer the question since I don't know enough about it off the top of my head here.
Yeah, thank you. So our next question will begin with Jody. When property taxes increase, it can make it hard for low-income residents and seniors to remain in their homes. What will influence your decision on whether or not to increase property taxes for Fargo residents?
Well, I'm not going to plan on raising property taxes and assessments. And the way I'm going to do that is a couple of ways. Is if we stop incentivizing all of these businesses downtown and losing millions and millions of tax dollars that would be spread out throughout the community, number one, that is a way to put funds back in the public's pocket. Another way is, again, with the sales tax funds that we get, the water plant is self-sufficient with only $2 million, and they move approximately $5 million or more a year into the general funds for that. So that's another way that can be used for infrastructure. Another thing I also dug into is recently I spent about 8 hours with one department head in the city, and I won't say with who, but I've already found a way to save $600,000 to almost $1 million a year at one department. And I will share more details of that very soon. And I hope to bring that actually to the city commission. So those are a couple ways that I do not plan on raising taxes.
Thank you. Brandon.
Hi, I have more charts here, but I'll just say them because you can't really see them. But so property tax for the last 2 years has been the same at 53 mills for Fargo. Okay, so here are the numbers for the 2021 budget for all, because the property tax has school board, city, Cass County, and parks and the parks. So 151 mills for Fargo Public Schools. City of Fargo is 53 mills. Cass County was 30 mills, and Fargo Parks was 29.67 in 2021. In 2022, Fargo Public Schools is again didn't change. City of Fargo didn't change. Cass County didn't change. What changed was Fargo Parks to 33.86. That's where we're seeing that property tax increase with. Now, when I found this information and I posted it on the internet, I can't access the budget anymore for parks, so you may want to contact them on that. But you know, how do you do this? You increase revenue. You make liquor licenses open to the city to bring in revenue to counteract those property taxes or need to raise those mills. You open up the food trucks, give them a chance to get permits, use that money to counteract those creative ways to bring in revenue so you don't have to raise those property taxes and mills.
Thank you. Anna.
So I might not have all the answers for all of these questions, right? And I think that the biggest answer would be to find the people who have these answers and bring them together. Because what we need is more connection within our city to address these issues, to have these conversations, not just put on the city commissioners or the mayor to make all these decisions for a whole bunch of people who have voices.
All right, thank you. Will.
Yeah, well, we're largely hamstrung by the state legislature where the property tax value of the home needs to be within 90% of the value of the home. So that's not something we can do a lot about. We can work with the state legislature, but what can we do? Well, the only way we could really decrease property taxes would be by cutting mills. And certainly every single one of the mills should be looked at with a critical eye. But really, it's going to come down to working with the state legislature. You know, the legacy fund's got a lot of funds in it that we could, make use of. Same thing with the prairie dog funds. There's creative solutions that could be put forward too. You know, we could ask for 1% of sales tax to come back to us instead of letting it all go to the state. So yeah, there's numerous types of solutions, but in the end, it's going to require that we work with Bismarck to get some sort of solution passed.
Thank you.
And I will ask you again to repeat the question.
Yeah, absolutely. When property taxes increase, it can make it harder for low-income residents and seniors to remain in their homes. What will influence your decision on whether or not to increase property taxes in Fargo?
I commit not to increase property taxes. Property taxes should just go with inflation. And, again, I sound like a broken record, but we need to focus on getting rid of assessments. We need to focus on, like Will mentioned, using money that is already available there through, we're getting money from the Prairie Dog Fund. That is money that can be appropriated for different projects. There should be no reason why the people of Fargo should pay more. There should be no reason why the people of Fargo should be burdened by specials. And there should be no reason why we should incentivize multi-billion-dollar companies that have all the money in the world and are still asking for incentives to build. That is unacceptable. So I commit to not ever raise any property taxes if I'm elected, but I commit to fight for the little guy and to get rid of, to work toward getting rid of assessments. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip?
Yeah, I get what everyone's saying, the message, property taxes are too high. How do you combat them? It sounds like it's the specials that are overwhelming people, infrastructure of new sewer lines and stuff like that. Maybe find a different way to figure out a way to pay that. Do we need candlelight street lights, or, they obviously need sewer and new water lines and, internet and all that stuff. So maybe we find a different way to, pay for the infrastructure and ease the burden on the homeowner. Like if the street has to be redone. And like I say, I've never owned property, so it's not my strong point. And being homeless, I only get 2 hours at the library on the computer. So bear with me here, and I'll have a better answer next time.
Thank you. Jennifer?
So I do think that the first question related to this topic is really what is the role of the city commissioners, like Anna had mentioned, and that is really to facilitate the process. There are current exemptions that do exist. So what can we do? Who are the stakeholders we can bring to the table to really work to solve or come up with viable solutions where we can actually offer the predictability? And I mentioned, partnering subdivisions for starters to really level set or to be able to offer some of that predictability. Working with lawmakers is going to be imperative because, as mentioned, there are state laws that the city needs to work within. And so if those need to be, changed or modified, that is something that we should be working towards. And if there are funds available, like a good example is the Prairie Dog Fund, then again, those are the stakeholders that should be at the table, and we should be facilitating that.
All right, thank you. All right, so Brandon, our next question starts with you. What specific ways would you address Fargo's childcare issues?
Well, personal story, I have, me and my wife have been trading off back and forth daycare responsibilities because daycare is high, but also daycare does come at a cost. And one important thing is, quality childcare is needed. Well, affordability is a bonus, but don't think we can sacrifice quality. As the city moves forward at the possibility of solving these issues, as a parent who utilizes childcare, we need to make sure quality is there. The philosophy that childcare facilities preach and live by are some of the most important things that parents look for when they look at daycares. That's one thing that we never talk about is equality. And again, it's stuck in a vicious cycle about, okay, how do you get quality? You hire people from degrees. When you hire people with degrees, how do you pay for them? Fargo, Cass County has vouchers people can get. But again, this may not be enough. I'll revisit my previous idea, but having companies, talking companies, investing in them, discussing the possibility of having on-site daycares that parents can go to at their workplace they have their kids at, where they can even see their kids for lunch. That's a unique idea that I feel needs to be addressed. Okay.
Thank you. Anna?
Yeah, the childcare issue is a big issue in our city, but it really comes back down to living wages and paying people what they deserve to be paid for the jobs that they're doing. You want quality service for the children that are being taken care of, then you better start paying them the wages they deserve, right? And that's being treated fairly and kind and valued in your job. And if you don't treat those childcare workers with that kind of respect, you're not going to get that in return, right? And so I think the biggest thing is paying people what they're worth, right? And then that stuff will fall into place. Excuse me.
Okay, thank you. Will?
So along with transportation and rent, childcare, all three of these take up about 20% of most Fargonians' budgets. So there's no silver bullet for the childcare problem. There's no one-stop shop solution. But we need to be providing piecemeal solutions then. Representative Carla Rose Hansen had a really great bill for parental leave. Unfortunately, it didn't pass the state legislature. I'd be interested in doing something like that at a city level, taking a couple pennies from every paycheck and pooling it together for parental leave. I know that Commissioner Strand has talked about using the Civic Center as a big childcare facility. But really, at the end of the day, we can use all of these solutions and then continue to incentivize businesses to provide childcare options for their employees.
Thank you. Bess?
So childcare is an issue, and I can talk from personal perspective. It was a nightmare waiting lists, and the prices are high. And unfortunately, I really don't see how the city can do something about the prices, but I can see what the city can do to assist people to find quality childcare, and perhaps create a liaison program to assist people with finding the proper federal and state grants to afford those childcare providers. But at the end of the day, I cannot agree that we should be, the city should be paying for more and more childcare. I understand it is expensive and it is a burden, but at the end of the day, free stuff costs money. And it is important to just not lose track of that. And I commit to not raise taxes, but I want to see some efficiency in government. And I would like to see a liaison that helps people with finding the right assistance when they need to pay for childcare.
Thank you. Philip.
Yeah, I mean, something's definitely wrong when it's more affordable for one parent to pretty much, quit and stay home instead of going and paying some childcare provider their salary just to stay home and take care of the kid instead. I guess maybe we should look into more in-home childcare, like instead of these big, like the Y or a big place at the Civic Center. Is it difficult for these in-home daycares, to apply or get approved? Or I guess I would kind of start there, Y is out, bigger is always better. Throw them all together under one roof. I guess I disagree with that. My mom ran an in-home daycare for years, and I think she had like 10 kids maybe in the basement at the time. And we all turned out all right, it seems like. So I guess I would start there.
Thank you. Jennifer.
So I would say one viable solution here is really the focus on is how do we have housing available close to jobs. Transportation challenges have been mentioned a few times, and that is a real challenge for families. And transportation to childcare, to affordable housing. We need to make sure as a city that we are that we have plans in place to be able to offer housing where the jobs are. Then I would say also attracting businesses with high-paying jobs. And also I would go back to the focus around the business partnerships with things like CTE programming, where there are businesses within our community right now that do offer reduced or paying a tuition for folks. Now this would open up, in promise of a job, then a future job, whether it's an apprenticeship or an internship. This then opens up more disposable income for families.
Thank you. And Jody.
Yeah, I think one of the ways there are about 600 nonprofits part of this Giving Hearts Day in this community. And I'm really connected in that aspect. And I think there's a lot of great resources out there that people just don't know about or aren't aware of. And I'd just love to connect individuals to those specific nonprofits. And another thing to think about is over 50% of our taxes go to the school district to support those programs. And I think there's a way that within the schools and the programs, if we can get them more funding and more money to maybe be able to offer more after school programs or even during school, not necessarily just for children that are in school, but to try to connect those, I think would be definitely viable. So.
All right, thank you. So our next question, we'll start with Anna. So mental health is a community concern. What are your thoughts on how to address mental health concerns and the stigma associated with it within the city of Fargo?
I think it's so important that we treat people with the dignity and respect that they deserve. And we really need to partner with our police force and stop arresting everybody with mental illness just because they have a mental illness. And partnering with the right people in the social services to bring those people the help that they need and not just schlep them to the jail. Because what good is that doing for our community? If we're just moving people from one place to another, what is that actually accomplishing? So I think that really is what we need to be doing.
Okay, thank you. Will.
Yeah, I fully agree with that 100%. But also, one of the ways that we combat the stigma of mental health is that we talk about mental health. So, I've dealt with mental health issues. I've dealt with substance abuse issues, and I'm not afraid to admit that. Addiction is a huge issue here in this community. And the carceral state is a revolving door for people that suffer from these issues. I support safe injection sites. The North Dakota MNPL supports safe injection sites. Safe injection sites, they lessen the burden on first responders. They virtually eliminate overdose deaths, and they save the city money. Getting rid of the stigma is key, and we have to allow people to come to get help. And we can't be knocking their doors down, forcing help upon them. To get help for a substance abuse problem, you have to make the decision. And we have to provide the resources for the people to make that decision. And that's why I support safe injection sites.
Thank you. Bess?
So I would agree with Will on getting rid of the stigma, and I'll stop right there, agreeing with him, because I cannot agree. Well, yes, we have to invest into our public health and providing services for people, but there is a point at which we start coddling criminals that are hiding behind the masks of mental health and addiction. It's not everybody, but I feel that this is a big issue, and I feel that we, yes, get rid of the stigma, fund the public health, but don't get focused only on that. Provide assistance for people, provide assistance with battling their addiction, but keep people accountable. So yes, again, get rid of the stigma, but keep people accountable. And I think we can achieve great things by funding more money into our public health for mental health and dealing with mental health issues in the homeless population.
Thank you. And Philip?
We need a better facility, either another shelter or, I see Prairie's adding on. I caught on the news the other day, the jail's not even big enough for all the inmates it has with mental health, taking up most of the cells or units. There needs to be a shelter where, divide them separately. I know, like, segregate them, substance abuse over here, mental health over here, criminals out of jail over here. Until we figure out what's absolutely going on with them. Do they need to go in Prairie? They just need assistance getting a house. As of right now, being homeless, there's nowhere for us to go from like 10 to 5. I think that's a lot of the big issue. You can go to the library, a couple hours, you can do this, you can do that. But other than that, there's really no place for us to go. People see us around the street and think we're causing trouble.
Thank you. And Jennifer?
Thank you. So a couple of things. I would say this comes down to really building awareness, education, and partnerships. So in my experience, in working in mental health, there is, basically this siloed approach as well, like inpatient and outpatient, and there's different funding sources and things that, again, we could do together. We could bridge that gap and facilitate that process so that we're not duplicating services, so that we're really partnering and we're able to broaden those offerings by doing so.
Okay, and sorry, sometimes I lose track of like who started. So Jody, you still get to go.
I'm up. This one hits close to my heart. I actually started a nonprofit that focuses on mental, physical, and spiritual life change to those that are suffering. And I started that nonprofit because I was suffering myself. And it's just one of those things that if you're that person that needs that assistance and needs that help, it's one of the hardest things to do is to ask for help. And People's Rising Academy has helped numerous patients so far, and we have more applicants that keep applying, and it's actually overwhelming, to be honest with you. And the biggest thing is, as well, is the police department. I'm so worried about their mental state, and I've actually reached out to them for People's Rising Academy because I can't imagine the things that they see on a daily basis, and what do they give these individuals that are suffering? And all I can do is hand them my business card and say, please, get these people to us. We will help them. We will help them just get out of the rut that they're in and just start leading a better life because there's just way too much suffering in our communities.
Thank you. Brandon?
Could I have the question again?
Yeah, absolutely. Mental health is a community concern What are your thoughts on how to address mental illness and the stigma associated with it within the city of Fargo?
Well, first I can talk about what Fargo does. I'll first talk about what I have here. So it starts with counselors. It starts with going to therapy. Obviously, people have to be willing to go to therapy, but until that happens, Fargo needs to go out there and we need to meet them where they're at. So we need to meet them, we need to work with them, and we need to work with the state and work with our health department here in Fargo to keep that up. One thing I was doing my research here, so and this goes back to workforce issue, a harm reduction advocate, which goes and supplies places such in Fargo, such as Glady's Ray Shelter, or the Withdrawal Management Unit, or the Syringe Service Program that Fargo already has in place, is staffed by harm reduction advocates. But harm reduction advocates only make $17 to $20 an hour, and they require a degree, they require previous qualifications. When you go to Sanford to work as an NA and make the same price. So what we're seeing here is that as a city, if we want to help these people, we need to start paying employees more to get them the help they need. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next question, for those who watched the first section, you will notice I'm doing a different question here. And that is because the question that we did in the previous section was about special assessments. However, that topic has already been brought up by several candidates already as we've been talking. So special assessments are your issue. I think you probably already know who your candidate is. I also realized as I was looking through kind of our questions and our rewrites that one of the questions that we asked about homeownership actually was not directly about homeownership, was about affordable housing in general. So I want to address rental housing as well, because we have talked a lot about homeownership, but there are a lot of people in Fargo that rent. So Will, this question will start with you. What steps do you believe should be taken to create more affordable rental housing?
Yeah, well, to your point, 56% of people in this city are renters, and that's too high in my opinion. We should be having more home ownership, but in the meantime, to get people a more steady base, I think that we need to increase density, especially on the north side, especially around NDSU. There's no reason that a lot of these not historical houses, just old houses, can't be remade into duplexes or quadplexes that really increase the density of the area around the college. You know, we're a college town. And we're also a town that's bigger in size than the city of San Francisco. We're bigger than the city of Boston. And the reason why we don't have as many people is just we're simply not as dense as those cities. So I would look to change zoning, especially up north, to allow for more density.
Thank you. Bess.
So when people talk about renting and renting prices, I feel that people instantaneously think about downtown. And we have to realize, again, I mentioned before, I'll mention it now, Fargo is not just downtown, and Fargo does have affordable housing. It is unrealistic to expect rents in the downtown area to be $500-600. I mean, you have $500,000 condos there and people investing millions and millions in dollars. So I feel that's unrealistic. We need to cut red tape for developers who are building apartments and provide them cheaper, give them the cheapest possible alternative and the cheapest possible route to build. Because if they build cheaper, if they build quality but cheap, and we'll see more apartments in town. We'll see the price of rent going down. It's competition. It's just simple economics. So,
thank you, Philip.
The way the whole process is kind of skewed. You know, like you pay $35 to fill out a rental application to a unit that you might not even get, that you might not even know is actually really available. You know, how do you know that there's actually a unit? You're not just paying $35 for a rental application in a unit that doesn't exist. I guess regulate that somehow. The whole issue with the credit check on a rental application, why does it matter? Like if you use ND Rent Help and you have a year paid for through this program that provides assistance, why are you still concerned with my credit when ND Rents is taken care of for a year? How should I be disqualified on my credit report when ND Rents is taking care of it for a year? I think that needs to change. And how it takes 10 days to, get an answer if you either have it or you don't. The time frame, revamped, I guess, in a nutshell, you know.
All right, thank you. I think Jennifer had to step out, and I didn't see she didn't come back in, did she?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
She's
Okay.
not feeling well.
All right.
Can you repeat the question? What is it to me now?
Yes. So what steps do you believe should be taken to create more affordable rental housing?
Well, really, the only thing that I have to say to that is make it more affordable to buy a home. I'm a little concerned that we're so on the rental property and apartments in this community that I don't want to see this community turn into just a whole bunch of rental property everywhere. I think, having the home is the American dream, having your family, having a good career and being able to, have your family inside of a home and not an apartment that's just a goal that everybody, I think, wants to obtain. And I think in order to do that, you just need to make it more affordable to buy a home, period. And that's the answer I have.
Thank you. And Brandon?
Well, I'm not letting special assessments off that easy. So there are two types of special assessments, the greenfield assessments and the reconstruction project special assessments. The greenfield assessments are what people who buy new houses get hit with. Personally, I think the developer should take the full special assessment hits, and then the housing market should decide what the cost of the house is. So they need to play out in that facet. Let's see. And now looking at affordable housing in general, affordable housing also deals with apartments as well. So Fargo Housing Authority has several affordable housing options: church town homes, borough apartments, which Authentic Housing, by the way, did sign a contract to do. Colonial apartments, 2020 Broadway, Herald Square, Pioneer Manor, Madison Jefferson neighborhood, Home on 18th and 25th. But how about 55 plus senior housing? We have one being built in August. But we just got the one, Kmart Beyond Shelters is building their brand new ones there. So we are addressing that housing issue, but we'll know more when our housing study is back. And I ran out of time.
Thank you. Anna?
I think the way for us to create more affordable housing for renters is to hold the landlords accountable for what they're doing in our community. And like Will said, we do need to create more rental spaces in our denser neighborhoods and areas so that we can create places for the students, for the workers, for the people who make our city go. Not just the professional people who have the privileges with the privileged jobs to live the privilege of having a house. Because all of those things are a privilege that some people just aren't afforded in our community. And that's why representation matters.
All right, thank you. So we have time for one more question. So Vess, we'll begin with you. Sorry, let me find the actual wording of the question. Okay, it was one that somebody submitted today, handwritten. What do we do with, that was it. What do we do with the Fargo Civic Center? What would you want to do with it?
Well, I haven't thought of that much. So keep Fargo Civic Center as an event center. I do believe in investment in arts, and I also believe that the city can also make money by renting the property as well when it's not at use, and I assume they probably do. So I really don't have a clear answer for that because that issue has never really crossed my radar. So I'll just leave it at that.
All right, thank you. Philip.
Needs to be updated and renovated, are torn down and made bigger. Now like that Shields Arena out south and the Dome, and there's all these venues. The Fargo Brewery doing their thing with venues. I want to say Drecker's also doing something. I mean, there's event centers all over that are nicer and they're newer. And the Civic Center needs to either be, I would think, definitely not even renovated, like rejuvenated or brand new or made bigger somehow or just rebuilt. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jody.
Well, this is a great question, and I don't know a lot about it, but as a city commissioner, if I were elected in, this is one of the areas where I would want to hear what the community has to say. Let's put up a social media site and let's have people bring plans to the commission meetings and, what would you like to see done with the Civic Center? And I want to involve all the residents in this community because it's going to affect all of them. What does it cost to operate it? What are we losing a year? What's our balance sheet, profit and loss say? to have it, and how can we make it where it's a sustainable business? Obviously, I'm a fiscally conservative woman, and show me the numbers, because if it doesn't make sense to keep losing and dumping money into something every year, then we obviously need to make a change for that. So let's see what the community has to say about it, and I'd love to see ideas that the residents might have for it.
Thank you. Brandon.
Fargo residents are very opinionated, as many of you know. And when the article came out about the Civic Center losing money, they stormed Facebook with their comments. And I agree with most of them. A couple of things that came out in place: renovate it or rebuild a arts area for ballets, for concerts, for orchestra, something that really dones the arts. Also, another thing, the Fargo Moorhead Science Museum is looking for a location within the next 1 to 5 years to renovate, to build. We have the parking here. We have the skywalk literally there. That's something that we don't, the effort that can be put in, we can reuse structure for something that the city wants and has been wanting for years on end. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Anna.
So I don't think that tearing down something is always the answer, because we have lots of beautiful buildings that we need to revitalize in our community. Not that the Civic Center is beautiful by any means. But that being said, to me, it almost seems like a no-brainer with FMCT not having a location and there being this open space. Why are we not using it for entertainment purposes for the arts? Why are we not revamping it to be an amphitheater or something that we can really use in our community right here in downtown? I think that we need to look at that. And like Jody said, talk with people in the neighborhood, talk with the people in the community, and see what really needs to be done there. Because there is so much potential with a spot that's right out there, right in the heart of our city.
Thank you. And Will, you get the last word on this one.
All right. Well, Jody, some numbers for you. Over 15 years, the Civic Center's lost about $2.2 million. I think it's, as currently constructed, a relic of a bygone era, and it needs to be revitalized. Reading the form, it said that it cost about $50 million to revitalize it into a new state-of-the-art performance arts center. I certainly would support something like that, as long as there were some private funds that got raised for it. I think that the consulting firm that we hired to look at that said we could raise about $35 million in private funds. So I think that would be a good option. I think the Science Center's another something that could be looked at. And as Commissioner John Strand had mentioned, sort of a solution for childcare. I think all of these options should be looked at, and we should see which one makes the most sense. But personally, I think that if we could raise $35 million in private funds, probably even more, that a state-of-the-art performance arts center, that would be where I would be inclined to vote.
All right, thank you. So before we begin with our closing remarks, I just have a couple reminders, a couple things to plug in. So first of all, for the second time in 2 days, I've learned why I shouldn't go off the script. So if the candidates gave me some kind of confused looks when I talked about filling out Vote 411. Thankfully, Whitney Oxendahl, our Vote 411 coordinator, was watching from home and texted me and said, Ashley, that doesn't go out till this weekend. So candidates, this weekend you will get an email from vote411.org. Please fill out the questions. You can submit a picture, the whole deal. So please do that. That will be published and go live Thursday, May 5th. So people in the audience, you can check that out. Also, when we talk about primary elections, there's a lot of things that I think even really well-educated people often maybe don't understand. It's different from the general election as far as sometimes where you vote, how long early voting is open, things like that. So if you want to know more about that, Vote 411 has information on that as well, including what you need to bring to the polling place, where you go vote, all of that great information. I'm really trying to make it easy for people to get involved and to vote. The last thing I want to mention as well is that the Fargo City Commission this will be the second time that we're going to be electing commissioners using the approval voting method. So for people at home, if you have been watching these candidate forms, and literally, if you like all of these candidates, you could vote, in theory, for every single one if you wanted to. So you get to vote for everyone that you approve of. So it's a little different, and the league is going to be putting out some information on our website and Facebook page around educating voters around that as well, just so that we kind of understand how that process works. Finally, there are some absentee ballot applications in the back if anyone would like to pick that up. If you would like to vote absentee, you can fill it out to vote absentee in just the primary election or in the general in November, or both. So those are back there for residents of North Dakota. All right, so we will get started. I think Philip, you get to start us off on closing remarks. So we'll start with you. And we had kind of a prompt that got submitted by a citizen, which was in a large field of candidates, so large we had to have 2 sections. What sets you apart from the other candidates that people might vote for?
I'm going to say my qualifications are different. On paper, they don't look like much, like all these other candidates, I guess. But my life experiences have definitely qualified me to deal with some of these major issues that are affecting Fargo. Especially the more needy or the more willing, whoever wants to accept or ask for the help. I guess that's about it, I guess.
All right, thank you. Jody.
Well, the important thing for me is that I'm here to serve the community. Honestly, that is the entire reason that I'm even sitting up here today. And I'm so passionate about the people in this community. I love helping others. I love helping them succeed. I love seeing their dreams come true. I've helped many friends start businesses, take their dreams, make them reality. And that's just what I do. That's my nature. And I love to do it. I love to see people happy. So here to serve 100%. I also believe that we don't need more government or legislative control over our lives. I think we need to let the free market decide where businesses are built and the structures in the community and how that flows. The other thing is I don't just ask tough questions. I actually roll up my sleeves and go and do the dirty work. And I've already done that, and I will hopefully be able to prove that in front of the commission here with just being able to find ways to save you guys money and me as well, because I'm also a Fargo resident. So I would just appreciate your vote and know that I'm here to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandon.
So going back to my opening statement, I've been doing this for a year. March 8th last year was my first city commission ever coming to. I've been invested in being the most qualified candidate for a Fargo City Commission. I've done my research. I still do my research. I meet with head departments. I meet with Fargo Police. Just next couple weeks here, I'll be doing a ride-along with the Fargo Police Department to see how our officers actually feel and what situations they're put into. I want this. This has been my part-time job. And I am independent. I'm an independent mind. And I'm not looking to please a certain party or, take any funds. I'm doing this out of my heart because I feel it's the best for the city. Every time I've spoken on that podium, which is over 15 times now, it's because I feel it's the right direction for Fargo. Also, I'm just a normal person. I'm a Fargo teacher. I get out, get my kids from daycare, and quickly hustle over here to meet every commission meeting. I'm a hustler, and I've done the dirty work. I've done it for last year. Also, I'm weird. Okay, everyone has a little bit weird parts about them. I'm a Doctor Who fan. I'm a Marvel fan. And, one of my most famous quotes I really take to heart is never be cruel, never be cowardly. Remember, hate is always foolish, love is always wise, and always try to be nice, but never fail to be kind. I'm here for civil, honest leadership, and I hope you'll choose me for approval voting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anna.
Thanks again, the League of Women Voters, for having us here. I really appreciate it. So one of the things I did mention before is that I was appointed for the Native American Commission for the city and for the last 3 years. And in that capacity, I really got to see how things were done. And I want to continue fostering relationships that I built with the police and the fire department and the other city commissioners by becoming a commissioner. Also, I can commit to openness, honesty, and integrity. I'm not going to give you promises that I can't keep or tell you things I don't understand or know about, but I will find those answers and I will connect the people who need to be connected because representation matters. And thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Will.
Yeah, I think my youth sets me apart, my bold ideas. I didn't even get a chance to talk about my number one issue, which is creating a fully sustainable local energy grid. I want my vision for the city is that every building is not only able to consume electricity, but also produce it, store it on site, have big batteries on wheels, basically called electric vehicles. And that's a bold idea. Public banking is a bold idea. So I think my bold ideas speak for themselves. My youth provides a new perspective, a much needed perspective. And yeah, I hope to be one of the people that you approve of when you go to the ballot and vote on June 14th. If you want more information, you can follow me on Will for Fargo at Twitter and on Facebook, and you can go WillThompsonFargo.com for my website. And thank you again to the League for hosting this forum.
Thank you. Bess.
I have been in public and community service for 11 years, which is the majority of my adult life. And I feel that this is my calling. I feel that there is no greater honor than to serve your community. And I understand we have a lot of issues in Fargo, big and small, but I feel that we really need to focus on what the major issues are. And the major issues are that people don't necessarily feel safe in this community, that crime is rising. So we really need to stop thinking about boutique issues, if you will, and focus on empowering our cops into investing in public safety. We see time and again that specials are a huge burden to homeowners. We need to eliminate specials. And there is a way how to do that. When somebody asks you how we're going to pay for roads and bridges, there is a way. We need equal representation. If you believe in those things, vote for me on June 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. So this concludes the second forum for the evening. We hope you can join us back here May 4th for the final one for the primary election season, which will be Park Board and the mayoral forums. And don't forget to vote on June 14th. Thank you.